Do you think Berube, like we discussed it earlier, or you threw it out, the idea of splitting them up, Matthews and Marner?
I'd give it a shot for a period.
Yeah, just like Berube's been so committed to those two playing together, Nylander playing with Tavares. He's barely gotten off it all year. And when he did, instinctively, he went right back. It felt like after a shift or two.
Well, maybe both center. I don't think John Tavares had a good game yesterday either. I didn't hardly notice him.
No, he scored 2 goals in Game 3. I liked this game in Game 3. I liked a lot of guys' game in Game 3. But you're right. I didn't notice. I thought Tavares was really quiet last night.
Yeah, I don't like panicky type moves, obviously, but I would hate to have the same roster, same lineup, and the same thing happen again where it was like, man, we decided to make a change too late. I did. My idea would be to throw something fresh at it and just see what happens.
Okay, let's bring in CJ, Chris Johnston back with us. CJ, could you picture a scenario where Berube splits up Matthews and Marner for Game 5?
I think it's got to be on the table because it's just before the call dropped out there. I think for me, both those guys, you need a little more offensively out of, and it's not something really throughout the year we saw happen too often. They spent most of their time when they were both healthy, playing together under Craig Berube. But you get to this stage of a playoff series, you're looking for a little shot of energy, a little boost anywhere you can get it. And, maybe it's in rearranging those chairs. There was a shift early in the third period when the Leafs actually started pressing where he simply flipped Marner and Nylander and had Nylander up on Matthews' right wing. Maybe that's the switch. But, I do think that I'm expecting something, a little different look for Game 5. I mean, the Leafs, other than Anthony Stolarz, have been pretty healthy. They've been rolling with the same lineup and the same lines, but it feels like we're at a moment now after getting shut out, not really sustaining much in the offensive zone in that last game, that he's going to be looking for some kind of spark, and that might be where he goes.
So if you look at a potential roster change for Wednesday, I mean, we were talking about maybe flipping lines around and that, but is there anything more you could see happening maybe at the bottom of the roster? I don't know, Nick Robertson coming in, moving bodies around, a guy like Jorn Croker, somebody else maybe that hasn't had the series that they've wanted, and maybe Chief decides to change things up for a different look.
I think it might be time for that. I mean, look, we saw Paul Maurice do something I don't recall, for Game 3. He switched out his entire fourth line, and, they wound up getting a goal in that game. Last night when Rodriguez was injured, you had Nosek moved up he went from scratch to start the series, the fourth line, to playing some shifts on the top line because of that injury situation. I think one of the strengths the Leafs have now is they do have some depth, and it's both a reflection of maybe some players that aren't giving you a ton, as you say, like a Calle Yarncroke, but also just why not get some fresh legs in there if you have them? I mean, it's kind of a normal thing for teams to do. So, they had a nice little run going, win the first 3 games against Ottawa. Like, I could see how they got sort of locked into this lineup, but, I would think there's a good possibility maybe David Kampf comes back in. I realize these are just moving pieces around the bottom 6, but you're trying to get a little bit more out of the team. And, really the biggest question is, would they ever consider doing it with Bobby McMahon? He's, I believe, 21 games now without a goal and was a 20-goal scorer for them in the regular season. I think they've tried to be, hold on as long as they can with him because, clearly he's a great skater, a big guy. He can score. They're thinking it's coming at some point. But, we'll have to see how dramatic they want to get. My read on Craig Berube is he's very much a settle things down kind of guy. He doesn't get too excitable when maybe the pressure goes up. I think quite honestly, that served the team well, but maybe this is the moment to send maybe a little larger message and get everyone's attention with some of the moves he makes lineup wise.
That's kind of the reason why it's so important. It's one of the main reasons, not just because they're the best players, but you mentioned some players there like Calle Yarncroke and Bobby McMahon. They seem so far away from scoring a goal. Like it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I don't remember the last time Calle Yarncroke's had a shot on net. and I'm not being a jerk. Like they're nowhere near the net. They're not anywhere near it. So some guys that are getting the puck near the net, they're going to have to make do with it because some guys are so far away from. You look at the depth players on that team. They are so far away from scoring a goal, or it seems that way, that somebody's got to step up.
This weekend in particular was really exposed. Like the bottom six last night never got close.
Like never, they're not even like it's just cycle in the corner, chip it in, chip it behind, out.
Well, and with Bobby McMahon, I think you just got to be – I think maybe collectively everyone's lost sight of the fact that a year and a half ago this guy was still in the minors. And he's never played a Stanley Cup playoff game prior to this year.
Right.
It's like, what were we expecting? Bobby McMahon?
I expect more because we're going to pump his tires all year and say he's becoming kind of a power forward guy with a great stride and he's really strong. So if we're going to jack up his tires during the regular season, it's not like you just get a hall pass that just disappear and say, oh, last year I was in the minors. That is garbage.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, then, but at the same time, if you don't pull your weight, you don't pull your weight. Like, if he came out of the lineup,
that's what he's doing.
Surprised.
He's not pulling his weight. It's plain and simple. It's not like he's still growing. He's 28 years old.
Oh,
like,
exactly.
He's got to play
This is what
better.
you got. I guess that's what I'm saying, though. And, CJ, you can jump in. Is, he's had some magical hot streak runs, but I'm not sure exactly. Bobby McMahon's probably closer to a fourth-line player in the league. That's probably around where he is. And if you're on the fourth line in the league, there's chance you're going to come in and out of the lineup.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be off the table. I think that they're worried about losing him a little bit by taking that tack. But, it might get to where they have to. I mean, look, last night's game, even as poorly as the Leafs were in stretch, it's 1-0 for most of the night, right? I mean, one goal from anybody would have been so big in that game. It didn't come, but I think that's how the Leafs are looking at it. And let's not shift it too far away from the big guys. I'm sure you've been all been discussing.
Absolutely.
Since the 4 o'clock hour. I mean, those guys need to score a goal at some point. And look, I think back to Game 6 in Ottawa, right? The Game 5 at home here was no good. Didn't have enough pressure at all. And then, Matthews scores that night. Nylander gets a couple. They finish off the series. I mean, I think you got to be looking at that kind of bounce back from the top players, on Wednesday. That they're going to need those guys to set the tone and lead the way. And look, they've done it before already in this playoffs. But you have to keep doing it again and again and again if you're going to play for another 5 or 6 weeks.
Yep. Absolutely. It's always the same breakdown, man. You need your best players to be the best players. They have to lead. That's the expectation on Wednesday night.